Hello, welcome back. So today's video we're just going to talk about bad habits. So what was it you did in the last couple of takes? So bad reselling habits basically, and what we've done about them, what you might be able to do about them, or what you have that's similar to what we did.
Yep.
As we go along, leave your comments if you want to about the stuff that you think that you could do or you have done or whatever. Right.
Or if you've got any bad habits,
Yeah.
reselling habits, we don't want to know about, your dirty little habits.
Your
and
dirty
stuff.
little
Just your
little
reselling
stuff,
one.
yeah.
You keep that to yourself.
So kickstart this really is something that everybody is familiar with, which is the dead pile.
Yes.
So if you're not completely familiar with what a dead pile is,
You probably have one.
yeah, you probably have one, you just don't know it. And a dead pile is basically when you list stuff and you've got a bundle of stuff. So you're listing it and you pick out the good bits and you're left with what
we lovingly call the detritus.
Detritus bits, which are basically the things that aren't as worthwhile. And so the better stuff gets given priority.
Or sometimes it's the stuff that's going to take a bit longer to list. Like Lego kind of tends to sit around for a little while. You've got to organise it and sort it all out and that, doesn't it? All of the stuff that's really dirty and you have to clean it, or consoles that have to be tested. If you can't list it, straight away, pretty much on, then it can sometimes sit in the dead pile. And
stuff where perhaps you've researched the hell out of it and you're still not sure. We have things that like this. We might let them sit for a while, but then we return to them, and sometimes it's just a case of giving it your best shot with those things, isn't it, really? Because there isn't a lot to compare them to. But the things that we've done that actually can help, so basically I think this was your idea, wasn't it, is get the detritus and separate it into 3 separate
because we sell on 3 different platforms. There's eBay, there is Etsy, and then there's Vinted. Isn't there? Now we can use Vinted. So eBay has the good stuff, not the good stuff, but the higher priced items that aren't kind of ceramics normally. We'll put a few on there every now and then. Etsy is the ceramics, collectibles, that type of thing that are a bit more fancy. And then Vinted gets anything under a tenner because there's no fees, and really. We don't have to put something on that's worth £1 for, I don't know, £4 just to cover the fees. You can put it on for £1, sell it for £1, everyone's happy. Do you know what I mean? And that gets rid of your dead pile, because you can just get it on quick, get it on, get it gone.
And then once you've separated it out into those 3 different piles of stuff, you can then start actually going through the process of listing. You could dip in and out of whatever and list on the different platforms, do a few on each, or you could just deal with one pile of stuff at a time, depending on how you work, really, I suppose. I mean, a dead pile can pile up pretty quickly, can't it, really? And we do have a dead pile. We have a very dead pile, actually, which is under the table here, and that is stuff which basically we've been through the process of looking on eBay, we looked on Etsy, we looked on other places, and it has just ended up in its own little dead pile of stuff that really isn't kind of worth
and we don't
worrying
really
about.
know what to do with it.
I
think I was going to do a car boot sale at some point, but the car boot sale season is now coming to an end. But there is one local to us that does an indoor one, so I might just take it to that and do it for 50p or something. Try and get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's always money to be made.
Yeah. Yeah, there is really. So, secondly is when you're out and about and you're buying stuff. So I've seen this on other videos, people very quickly get the phone out and they tap stuff into eBay and they scan barcodes and all this sort of stuff. So sometimes you might research a bit too quickly when you're out and about doing stuff. So you might think, I'll scan this, okay, or take a photo of it or whatever, and then you look it up and you go through it on eBay and you're like, oh, it looks like that. Okay, I'll get it. But then you get it back, like home or like as an office, whatever, and you realise that actually what you've picked up isn't the same as that thing that was on there, but you've done it so quickly that you kind of think, oh yeah, that's it.
Or you've only checked the for sale on eBay rather than the solds, because sometimes people would just aim really, really high. It doesn't mean that it's going to sell for that amount. But has anyone else noticed that at charity shops, most of the time you can't get any reception to check on the internet?
Yeah.
Do you think this is a conspiracy against us? Because I take my
so.
phone out to have a little look and it's like, well, I've got no bars, what's going on here then?
Yeah.
I better pick that up anyway. I think it's a conspiracy to get us to spend all our money, to be honest.
And also, whilst you're out and about, not just a case of researching too quickly, but just snapping it up too quickly. So you might know what it is, you might already know that you want it because it's worthwhile, but then you grab that thing and you haven't actually perhaps given it as much attention looking at the condition of it that maybe you really should have done. And it can be a case of sometimes even like looking at it whilst you're there, like you turn it over in your hands and you go, yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah.
So you buy it and then you get it home, and that's when you actually get the opportunity to sit there and take a really good look at whatever it is you bought, and you kind of go, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not quite. A little bit like this. Hello. How's you off here on your lovely stool? Ooh. Guitar. How much is this?
That is 15 English pounds.
Oh, 15. It's a bit dusty. Would you take a tenner?
I'll take £10, yes.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Phew, I'm glad she didn't look in the battery compartment.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. 10 quid. That'll go into 30 quid. That will. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, that's destined for the bin.
And I suppose this kind of thing is, in the main, perhaps a little bit unavoidable, if I'm honest with you. And it is one of those things where even if you do take yourself off to a corner at the charity shop and you're examining something really closely or you're trying to look it up, like Jen said, you can't sometimes always get reception. So that's very difficult anyway. You can't really walk out of the charity shop and stand out the front looking on your phone with whatever it is in your hand. And maybe you don't want to leave it there in the charity shop, so it's gamble, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is sometimes just, let's take a gamble on this.
Yeah. It doesn't always pay off.
Yeah. And I don't particularly think that we've actually, we've really solved this one, have we?
No, I think it is just part of it. Sometimes you just have to go with your gut. So sometimes it's, ka-ching, sometimes it's not. So
yeah, but I mean, obviously what's going to happen is the longer you are reselling and you're picking stuff up, the more you learn the hard way that perhaps what you picked up isn't perhaps what you thought it was or isn't particularly great. Then you learn as you go along, and actually, you know what, I bought, I've gone into a charity shop and I've seen this thing and I know I bought that a few months ago and I know it wasn't really worth it.
Yeah. But the longer you do it, that you don't have to look up things so much. I mean, you're always going to have to look up because you're never going to know everything. But the longer you go on with it, the better your knowledge will be. Yeah. So you do kind of eventually accumulate a bit of a working knowledge of stuff that you may not have had at the very beginning anyway. Can I just put, and in this regard, just because you like something doesn't mean it's worth anything. Because I've been guilty of buying things, getting excited and buying things, and I've got it back and it's not actually worth anything. So I've had to keep it.
Oh, it's a shame, isn't it? But like stuff from my childhood, I might actually go to a charity shop or a jumble sale or whatever, and I might see something and think I had that when I was a kid. But I do know from maybe looking stuff up, thinking, oh, I had that once, I wonder how much it would be worth if I'd have kept it, that I know perhaps that isn't worth picking up anymore. Or maybe if I do pick it up, it's just for me to keep, So moving on, buying large items and buying too many bulky items. I've just got some stuff from the cupboard.
Where's that supposed to go?
This is something where we don't get a huge amount of bulky items. We are
quite
careful. Yeah, anymore. We did go through a phase of sort of picking up anything and everything. Now that is absolutely fine to pick up bulky items. Honestly, if that's if you run your business off the back of selling bulky items, that's one thing, isn't it? And but it all amounts to the same thing. Do you have the room for these things?
Where are you going to put it?
Yeah. Do you have the room to store them?
If you've got a massive warehouse, you're not going to have any problem, storing a few boxes here and there. If you're working from home, you're not going to have the same amount of room, so you need to really, really be careful.
And I suppose the solution to that, I mean, we have like this office, so we have in the corner some storage shelves, and we do have a shelf allocated for the larger items. So we know we can buy some bigger bits of things. Actually, quite a lot of the bigger items have sold recently, which is quite good. They're an absolute pain in the butt to actually box up and send. And that's another thing, make sure that you have the packaging for stuff as well.
Do you remember we had a vintage Star Wars, was it an AT-AT walker or was it an ASST?
Yeah, so it was an AT-AT walker, and it was, I don't know whether you're familiar with these, but it was like a huge plastic AT-AT walker. If you don't know what one of those is, then Google it, or we could put a photo. Either way, Yeah, and so basically this was huge in the box. It was in the box, and I think that I had basically taken it apart, cleaned it up, repaired anything that needed repairing and stuff like that. And then it sold, and then it was like, oh, hang on. Hang on a minute. How do I actually now send this? And I think that we had to kind of source a box that was just about big enough.
We had to actually pay for a box.
I think we did have
storage company.
To be honest with you, I think on that occasion, we did have to do that because it was just too bloody big, to be fair. So it's not just, I suppose, about storing these things. It is about how to send them once you've sold them as well.
Yeah.
And like I say, we have this shelf in the corner for larger items, but if we got anything absolutely ginormous, it would be, where do you put it? And there were some people who do sell stuff like, the bigger items, big hoovers, they sell wheelchairs, they sell all kinds of things like that. And that's fine. I mean, we do have a storage unit as well attached to this office. It's sort of part and parcel of it. But again, it's like, if we were to buy loads of these big things, it would soon fill up.
Yeah.
As well. So just be aware of that. And to be fair, the way that we now have got round this is just to be choosy.
Mindful.
Just choosy as to what we buy.
Yeah.
Because then we can assess, what we can buy this now because we can store it. But in 6 months' time, we might not be able to store something of that size because the large item shelf and the storage unit might be full by that point.
Yeah, and you don't know how long things are going to sit around for.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
Nothing's guaranteed in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it could be sat around for months.
Yeah.
So you just don't know how long you're going to have that thing for. So this next one, it really just applies to if you work with someone else, because I know a lot of you will work on your own, so you won't have this issue. But with working with someone else, it is about kind of judging as to what tasks you do. Because I remember at the very beginning of running this, basically what we were doing is like with action figures. So Jen was taking the action figures to clean up and research, and I was taking the accessories. Now, why we did this, I don't know. Maybe we were just barking mad. I have no idea. But so I was doing the accessories. And the only problem with that is that you're doing different parts of the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same with like Lego. So if you have one person working on sets and one person working on minifigures, that essentially can then work out the same part, or, the two parts of the same thing.
Yes, I've just found the Imperial Gunner. Have you still got that gun?
Gun?
Yeah.
What gun?
He had a little gun. It doubles his value.
Have you seen our solds today at all?
You didn't. Oh,
So if you're doing a task like that, you either need extremely good communication between the two of you at all times, or you need to be working side by side, realistically, whilst you are doing it. Because if I was, say, sorting out the accessories and Jen had the figures they go with, and I was just like, oh, this accessory is worth £25. You know what? I'm going to stick that on eBay and sell it. If I was to then sell that, and a few days later Jen comes to me and says, you know what, I've got this action figure. Do you have the accessory for it? And I go, what's the accessory? And she goes, this picture here that I have on my phone is the accessory I need. No, not anymore. Not anymore, I don't. So that kind of thing can be a little bit of hassle, really, in the long run. So the way we get around that is we just do, you know, each part the same task, really, ourselves.
Yeah.
So Jen does action figures and accessories, and I will do Lego sets and minifigures, and that's the same part of, or the same part, I keep saying that, it's the two parts of the same thing. And that is a lot easier. A lot easier to do it that way, because then you don't have that lack of communication perhaps in like, oh, sorry, I've just sold everything. Oh, I needed that. And you don't have that anymore, do you?
No.
So next, working in chaos. And I can hand you over to Jen here, because Jen knows a little bit more about being messy.
Just call me Loki. Yeah, I am the goddess of chaos.
Goddess of chaos.
The goddess of chaos. It's way cooler than I actually am. I am a nightmare. My brain is very, very busy. It goes 10 to the dozen, as my mum would say. And I can't really focus very well. So everything is all... Imagine the Tasmanian devil, like whizzing. So when I come into the office, it's nice and clean, and I'm like... And then everything's everywhere. There's boxes, bags, there's crap all over my desk. There's bits I've started and they're not finished, and then there's, you know, it's all kind of a bit chaotic in my little life. I struggle.
And the pet peeve that I have is having stuff left on the floor, because it's very easy to trip over, or it's very easy to step on. And I have been in scenarios where you have been sorting stuff out and left stuff on the floor, and I've come along and just kind of accidentally stood on something, and it turns out that I have devalued something from £25 down to about a £5 because it was left on the floor.
You're never going to let that go. What was it? It was an Action Man thing.
It was some Action Man pliers.
Oh yes, that was it.
Yeah, so if you know anything about the Action Man pliers, they are tiny. They are like really, really small pliers, but they are actually worth quite a bit of money. But once they're broken, believe it or not, they're not worth as much.
No matter how much you glue them.
Yeah. So the way around working in chaos that we find works the best is to have a SKU system.
Have an Alexis to organise you.
Not literally. Have a SKU system. And that works really well, obviously, for filing stuff away once you've listed it and you've done everything you need to do. It's on eBay or Etsy or whatever. You can just pop it in the right place. And obviously that depends on you marking it correctly on whatever, you know, whatever kind of website you're on. But you can then put it in the right places. And so we have SKU systems because we have 3 different shelves. So we mark them A, B and C for the 3 shelves. Then we have drawers that we put stuff in, and they are just alphabetically sort of drawer A to Z. And then we have the big item shelf, and we have a bookshelf. So we have all kinds of corners that are pretty much covered with the SKU system.
Yeah.
And that has worked really, really well.
Yeah, and just having things in a certain place so you know where to look for it.
Yeah.
Is really helpful.
Yeah.
Like the packing stuff goes here, and this goes here, and that goes there.
Yeah.
And just try and keep your workspace as clutter free as possible. Yeah,
and I suppose the one thing that you do is just have a tidy up sort of once a week, or you know, as much as you need to, just to keep it clutter free.
Yeah.
If
you're familiar with Tracy Emin and her unmade bed.
Tracy Emin's bed. Yeah.
That's what my desk looks like come Friday. So I do try, you know, peel banana skins from behind the, you know, the laptop. And
didn't Tracy Emin's bed, wasn't that covered in condoms as well? Is that what you?
No. There are no condoms.
Is that what
on
your
my
desk looks like?
No.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, yeah, so I do recall 20 plus years ago going to the St Modern and seeing her bed actually.
Didn't you say it smelled like fag ash?
It kind of had a funky smell about it because it was her actual bed and it was unmade and it was just a bit dirty, to be honest with you. But That's art, isn't it? It's modern art.
So this could my desk could be worth millions.
Yeah, in another 20 years we can sell that and make a profit. That's what this is all about, really, isn't it? So last but not least, I believe, is leaving finances till the last minute. So this is, I think, where basically I can kind of talk from experience. So with the finance side of things, we use QuickBooks. So it's really easy, but it all relies on me keeping it up to date and stuff like that. Now, I have in the past done that once a week, because realistically you need to keep that a regular thing of going on and making sure your receipts are accounted for, making sure you've got everything just where you need it and stuff like that. And I have a tendency to print. I'm a bit old school with stuff like that, so I will print stuff as well and keep it in a folder, like I'm from Mad Men or something like that. But yeah, but it is very easy to kind of then forget, so you might end up leaving it sort of a couple of weeks, and then a couple of weeks becomes a couple of months and stuff like that. The one thing I find though is, the one thing I find though is, as long as you keep your receipts somewhere where they are accessible. So like back in the old days. Where's your filing system?
Your receipts?
So that back in the old days, right? So they used to, in the offices, they would have basically a spiky thing on the desk, and they would just put their receipts on that, and they would just pile up and up and up, and then they'd kind of sort them out. So I have something very similar, very similar.
If we had a spike, I would fall on it and die.
Yeah, pretty much. So I have something very similar. Well, I say very similar.
And it's very, what's the word, apt? But it's
very
Lego type.
These come in very, very handy. Now, obviously, I can't show you, I can't go through the contents with you. Yeah, these are my card details.
I think that'd be slightly boring anyway.
But they are absolutely, it's kind of full of receipts at the moment. But I know that when I go out and we buy anything, we have anything which will need to go on QuickBooks to account for that particular transaction, I can put them in this rather apt Lego tab, really, and then I can go through that and just sort through them. So I would suggest, I think, is do it once a week. Just have maybe an allotted time to do that once a week, just to keep on top of this particular aspect, because this is about as important as a lot of other aspects of what we do.
Yeah, not very exciting, but very important. Otherwise, this might happen.
Who could that be?
Have you paid your taxes?
Oh no! So yeah, basically, go through once a week and just get on top of these little receipts, bits of paperwork and stuff like that. If you find that a bit tricky, because maybe you're working on your own, you've got a lot of other stuff you're doing, you've got obviously a life outside of it as well, is put aside a time, maybe every couple of weeks or probably at the very most every month, to do it.
Well, you can get an accountant, can't you?
Or you can get an accountant. Yeah,
so we're too tight to.
And obviously, I do this. This is my kind of aspect of what I do. Is I just do all this and make sure it's all up to date. Everything's accounted for and stuff like that. And if you do that yourself, then it is a good habit to get into, of doing that, scheduling that in regularly. Obviously, if you have an accountant, you would still obviously have to send stuff like this through to QuickBooks anyway. So you can get the app actually on your phone, and you can take photos of everything as you go along. So you can take photos of receipts and stuff like that and send it through, and then the accountant can see it at the other end. But either way, just keep on top of doing that. Maybe do that once a day, is just say,
wind the bobbin up. Sorry.
Yeah, so maybe just do that every day. Maybe just snap a few photos of all your receipts once a day, and then shove them in the Lego tab.
Well, the Lego tub is optional, isn't it?
Yeah, it's optional. It's an optional extra, but you could probably just, a folder would probably be easier, wouldn't it? Let's face it. So Yeah, but that's pretty much what I would do is just get a little bit more organised with it. Obviously, I have this to go through, so you know if it does build up like this and you do it yourself, is essentially just put aside an admin day, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And we have gone now full time, like proper full time. We were doing I think about 3 days a week, but we're now doing the other 2 days as well. So I've got more time, which is great while we're here, because if you work from home, you could just do this sort of admin-y bit whilst you're just kind of, I don't know, having your tea or watching the telly, just casually do it, you know. But obviously when you have to come into work to do it, so it's a little bit different from that aspect. But yes, anyway, so that is some of the bad habits.
Yeah, if you can think of any more that you've got, or any that you've seen that we've got that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, any you've picked up on that we don't know about.
Apart from Alexis's swearing. Comment below, give the video a like, and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And we'll see you in the next one on Monday.
Yeah, on Monday. And we've got the live next Wednesday. There'll be another poll for you. So watch out for that.
We're going to try this time not to have any technical problems.
Yeah.
But I take full responsibility.
Do a private video instead, which sounds really dodgy.
It sounds really dodgy.
Yeah, but
anyway, take care.
Anyway,
bye.
You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.